You're watching Drive the Lightning.
The positively charged
EV channel.
We're going to do something on the positively charged EV channel that we've never done before. We're going to have a serious conversation. And to do that, we need serious people. So insert Dean McManus and Jerry and Helen Molnar. All of these three are ambassadors, and they are on the accelerator leaderboard to get the launch editions in the first 2,000. Thanks for being here, Jerry, Dean, and Helen.
Yay.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Hope you don't mind we pick your brains a little bit, and then wherever this goes, it goes, okay? I think you know how we operate around here, right?
Very formal, very rigid.
So, Dean, let's start with you. We haven't had the privilege of speaking to you before. What is it that drew you to Aptera initially?
I actually was drawn to Aptera originally, when they first came out many, many years ago, right? So I loved the car. I loved the design, the idea of efficiency first. It was really a revolutionary car at the time. And then it was, sad to see that they had problems, but then it's basically the technology and the support caught up with them. And so now it became a viable retry for it. And then it's like, oh, wow, it's exciting. It's exciting. I loved the original Tesla Roadster when it first came out, which was about the same time as the Aptera, but it was like $130,000. It wasn't going to be something that I could get. And then all of a sudden now this comes out and it's, $25,000, $30,000. It's real. And it's like, yeah, I'm on board,
Wow. Hey, Jerry and Helen, same question to you, but maybe let's start with Helen. Did you find it first or did Jerry find it first? The Aptera.
Well, of course, Jerry found it first. But what sold me on it is I am just the cheapest person who ever lived. And when I heard that you could use no electricity and no gas, I was like on board. I loved it. Yeah.
And what about you? No, you can't beat
well,
that.
And I have to admit, when I first showed it to Helen, she's like, oh, I don't know about that car. It's kind of weird looking.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I explained the economics, she's like, oh, okay. It looks really cool now.
Yeah. It starts to look better through a dollar sign lenses, right?
Yes, exactly.
The green glass, green glasses.
Were you way back in 2008 or wherever, in the first time, Jerry? Were you into Aptera then, or is it newer to you?
I was absolutely into it then. When it first came out, I said, I gotta have that car.
Yeah.
And then I saw Robin Williams reserved one. So obviously he was on board. It'd be nice if we could get a celebrity like that now. But it was, to me, I remember that the first one, you had an option of a hybrid where it has small diesel motor charging the battery, and then a small gas tank, and an all-electric version. And I remember the all-electric version had a 110-mile range. Now, back then, just using the batteries and technology they had then, that was even revolutionary.
Yeah, I don't get 110 miles now in my Leaf.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's back in 2008.
So one key point is that, back then, the cost of batteries was so much more expensive than they are now. Basically a kilowatt of power, that much battery, it was like $1,000, a kilowatt hour of storage. And now it's like close to $120. So, it's a fraction of what it was.
10 times cheaper.
Yeah.
And getting cheaper. I mean, I'm projecting $50 a kilowatt hour in just a short time.
That'd be awesome. Right. Is that Sarah?
Yeah,
so yes, I saw that. And I'm into high-tech futuristic stuff. And I understood the aerodynamics and said, I got to have one of those. And I was very sad to see that they went out of business. And then when they came out with the Paradigm Edition, I didn't hear about it. My friend told me, who was into this kind of stuff. And he said, have you seen Aptera's restarting? I'm like, oh my God, I got to get one. Wow. And I came in a little too late to get the Paradigm, but I reserved one as soon as I can, like about a month after they announced that they were taking orders.
Wow, you're early. You're early.
Yeah.
Sarah had a question.
Well, that was part of my question, and I still would like to hear what Dean, how he feels, because I wanted to know how you felt when, or what your impressions were when it was coming back. Were you hesitant at all, or were you just full speed ahead, or how did you feel about it?
Yeah, so the thing is that I also missed the paradigm opportunity. I think it was kind of really a small group that was introduced to that, but when they did the formal announcement in late 2020, I ordered that day. So
Wow.
yeah, I reserved mine that day. So and then later when they had the opportunity to get for the ambassador thing, I joined that. And then with the accelerator program, when that became available and looked like we could help to bring it to production, I hopped on that too. So yeah, I'm excited.
It's
Nice.
kind of interesting, this era we live in, where a lot of the press for Aptera comes kind of in this format. Small channels like ours, and bigger channels like Aptera Owners Club and Jerry Rigs Everything. And so this is kind of how the word gets out. And you three have become kind of important voices, in our opinion, in these forums on Facebook, in the Reddit pages, and on all the YouTube channels. You really seem to have fleshed out your knowledge of this product. And I'm just curious, because you have more knowledge than us, where did you get the confidence to invest more than $10,000 in an EV startup when most EV startups fail? Where did that confidence come from? Can we start with Helen and Jerry?
I could tell you exactly. When I heard that Sandy Munro was advising him,
Okay.
then I was like, okay, I'm all in. Because I
Okay.
know, with his advice, that they had a much better chance of succeeding. Before I heard that, I was thinking, okay, it's a good concept, but they're just starting, and it wasn't real confident. But as soon as I heard Sandy Munro was an advisor, I thought, okay, I'm in now.
Okay. And Helen, you had no problem with that? You're like, go ahead, honey, do what you got to do.
Yeah.
In fact, she was encouraging me to invest more.
Yeah.
Oh,
She was, that's all you want to invest? We got to invest more than that.
Well, I'll tell you why. It goes back to the cheap economics.
Mhm.
So if we don't have money in our bank account for investing it, then we can't spend it. It'll be there later. So, but I have a
Hopefully.
feeling, this is my own feeling. Yeah. I have a feeling that by the time Aptera blossoms into its best, because Jerry and I are kind of old, we got a few years left, that whoever inherits our Aptera is going to be one lucky dog.
Well, she's talking about the Aptera shares.
Aptera shares, yeah, not
Yeah.
our
Yeah.
car.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, by the time it really blossoms into something huge, we'll probably be gone. And whoever
Oh.
inherits our Aptera shares, they're be like, you gave us what?
We'll keep you in mind.
Yeah,
Keep
we
you guys in mind.
should probably be nicer to you now that I know that's your plans,
Well, I figured it
Well,
was
you
a whole package deal, passing on your Aptera and the Aptera shares. But now I
Oh yeah,
realize
that's Aptera
you
and the
might
shares.
you might just want to be buried in your Aptera if it comes to that. So maybe
Just keep living. That we'll go
yes,
with that.
that's the better option for all of us.
So what about you, Dean McManus? What is it that convinced you enough to put actual money in this company?
The opportunity. I mean, the thing is, you think about, I remember, looking at Tesla stock in 2018, and Tesla was on the rocks. They were having really tough problems trying to get production started for the Model 3 in 2017, 2018. But when you look at it, I had invested early on in Apple, and it's one of those kind of things that when it's not guaranteed, no part of it is ever guaranteed, and especially a startup company and an EV company. But it's one of those kind of things. It's like, it's a good idea, and then I've seen what Steve and Chris and their team are doing. It's like everything they're doing is, well, I'm kind of spoiled in the fact that they're building the car that I would want to have. So it's one of those kind of things. If I was going to invent a car, it's like, it's pretty close to what the Aptera is going to be. And so, everything that I've seen as they've developed the company and they've made the decisions, even the changes, controversial changes, it's been good, and it kind of reinforces my belief that they're going to get into production and they're going to build this car, and it's one that I want to drive. So it's exciting. Yeah. So
Do you
why
mind
not back it with?
Do you mind if I
I
ask some
think,
background questions? Is that okay?
Sure.
Jerry,
Sure.
Jerry and Helen, what is your background? Because the reason I ask is because there's such this diverse I want to call it a character set of people who are interested in Aptera. We have met some of the most fascinating people from all different backgrounds and walks of life. It's been enjoyable for us. But I would like to know, because you three are so invested, what is your background? Jerry and Helen, do you mind sharing where you came from?
Not at all. You want to go first, Helen?
Yeah, my background is in accounting, and I do construction accounting for hospitals.
Okay.
And I'm an MRI scan tech, and I've worked in medical imaging my whole life since I was in my early 20s, but I've always been kind of a tech guy, into the latest tech. I had one of the early computers back in the early 80s, taught myself programming, worked on CT scanners when they very first came out, had one of the first cell phones that we jokingly called a pocket phone, one of those big Motorola brick things.
Oh, right,
boy.
right. Wow.
Not the real big ones, but the ones that were like this big. But they weighed like a couple pounds, and I'd carry it around my pocket and say, look at my pocket phone.
Yeah.
I was like one of the few people that had that. And then when I saw the first iPhone, I remember a lot of my friends saying, oh, that'll never take off. I want my BlackBerry. That'll be way better. I said, no. And I got the iPhone like 2 weeks after it came out, and then was sad to see they dropped the price in half right after I bought it. So I just kind of always followed tech and been interested in tech and engineering. I have an interest in high-tech radio-controlled airplanes, and just always kind of follow that stuff. And when I saw this, it just makes sense. I mean, in-wheel motors, direct drive, eliminate as many parts as possible, as efficient as possible.
He's the spender.
And also coming from an airplane background, seeing the aerodynamics of Aptera, I mean, I thought all along, why aren't they making cars like this?
Right.
I mean, they should have been all along.
Yeah. What about you, Dean McManus? What's your background?
Yeah, so I've done a lot of things. But let's see, for medical stuff, I actually helped develop a watch that detects epileptic seizures. And I did clinical trials at UCSF and Stanford, and at home trials for that. Most of my time has been computer support. So I would take care of computers. And I spent years doing what's called video analytics, which is where computers look through cameras and watch motion and objects, identify motion and objects. So you see that a lot in ADAS systems, auto driving cars, that kind of thing. But it's also safety and security systems. So yeah, kind of a lot of background in that sort of stuff. Technical stuff mostly, but I'm also a techie like Jerry, new stuff, got to get on board. I would be an early adopter. And of course, because I supported Mac and PC systems, I would always have the new computer and the new phone and those kinds of things. But then I've also been a car fanatic for years and years. So I've loved cars. So it's kind of a joining of dreams,
Wow, that's interesting how similar you are. You have technical minds, you're early adopters, you love technology.
I have a question for Dean.
Interesting. Go for it.
Dean,
Sure.
so because you have a background in video analytics, what do you think of OpenPilot?
Oh, it's totally cool. It's really nice. The whole idea of having it available, kind of platform independent, where you can put it in, it has connections that go to a car. It's really nice to have that kind of, yeah. Hey, I've got mine. It's not here, but I've got mine too.
Well, thank you for having
Yeah,
us.
thank you.
So let's circle back.
Sorry,
back.
Dean. Didn't mean to interrupt you.
Anywho, let me be the interviewer for a quick minute. And I'd like to know how Chad and Sarah, what made you interested in Aptera, and what made you start a YouTube channel?
Oh, wow.
Chad
Yeah.
responsible for all of it.
Yeah, as far as the Aptera, we were in a position where it was time to buy another car. This was like 2020, early or middle 2020, and I knew it had to be electric. I just wasn't gonna burn any more fuel if it could be avoided. So obviously, then you start researching, and I've got this much money. I want this much car, but what can I really do? So we settled on the Nissan Leaf.
He did. I am not an early adopter. He is.
But it's not early.
I am not. So
EVs have
I'm
been
like
out a long
electric.
time.
No,
It's
no,
not early anymore.
no.
Okay, well.
But anyway,
we
I'm
got
on board
there.
now. I'm very glad that I went with his instincts. He's good.
I'm not good, but we got the Nissan Leaf. So now we're all of a sudden more than just a car to go to work and back. We're like kind of excited about the technology. We love, the Nissan Leaf might be the worst electric car next to the iMev, but we love it. We have no issues with our 2016 Leaf. It's like our best friend, other than like Jerry and Helen and Dean. But we become kind of enthusiastic, and then we wanted to just kind of share a little bit of that because a lot of my research was done right here on YouTube. And I thought, I bet there's other people that want to know about the Nissan Leaf. And then a few months later, my mom buys the BMW i3, so the same thing. It's just natural I bet more people want to understand the BMW i3 Rex. And then in all that, we started getting comments from people about Aptera because I did a little tiny blurb on one of our early, when we had like 20 subscribers, just saying, hey, what do you think of this car? Is this just too weird or something? Like, it was dumb. The video was dumb. But we started getting comments, probably from some of you guys. And then we realized, wow, people want to know about this. I want to know about this. Pre-ordered right there, invested as soon as we had the chance. Not to the level you invested to. We don't mind disclosing. We invested $1,000. But my mom also did
Money is money.
$1,000. Yeah, and my brother did $1,000. So as a family, we're in for $3,000. But that was the start for us. And then we just started to like the people so much. And that's just the way it is with Sarah and I. We attached to people. I think I summed it up okay.
Yeah, when we first got our electric car, I'm not an early adopter generally, but I am very interested in how things work and what to expect. So we had some surprises driving an electric car for the first time, and that was kind of one of our motivations for a YouTube channel, was what could we, to get some things out there for real life as more people are adopting this technology, what things might they run into or could they expect? And then, like Chad said, we started talking a little bit about Aptera, and we got just this. I was scared. Again, I'm scared of everything. That's why I'm not an early adopter. I was scared because you hear things about like YouTube and mean comments and nasty people. And I was really nervous about going on screen. And we just found just such a positive and encouraging community, and that has made it a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's
now part of that, I got to say, part of that is your personalities, both of you, the way that you approach it. It's really, it's true. It's you're friendly, you're approachable, you have really nice, even-handed approach to how you answer problems and how you address them. You guys do research ahead of time, so it's not just talking into the blind, which comes out in the shows, but you have this great delivery and you're fun together, and so it's just enjoyable to watch.
Very kind.
It's infotainment. It's infotainment.
Well, you're too kind.
Honestly, it's contributors like you that handle most of the info.
Oh yeah.
We try and bring a little tainment.
Well, we get those comments, and then sometimes I'll just type, I'm sure somebody will answer this, and then Dean will come in and answer it, or Jerry and Helen will come in and answer it. I love what happens in the comments after we've replied, when you are answering these people for us. I mean, it's such a treasure for us, really.
We cannot tell you how much we appreciate your contributions.
Cool. You guys are cool.
Because it's more knowledge than we are able to collect for ourselves, but we get enriched by it. We get enlightened by some of your comments, and we know that it's providing a service for other viewers who want to know these things.
All right, let's get the focus back where it belongs on you guys. So
I was subtly doing that.
Okay, good. now, Dean, if I remember correctly from some of our past interactions, you drive one of my favorite cars of all time. That's the Cadillac ELR. Is that right?
That's true. It is my fourth plug-in hybrid. So I had Chevy Volts before, Volt with a V, and then I first leased it because it was just a killer deal, and then I bought the third one, and then basically the Cadillac ELR is like the Volt in a fine suit. It's it basically brings all the comfort and luxury of Cadillac stuff, but the key was that it was too expensive when it was new, but then it became kind of a bargain used. And so, it's been great. It's done a great job. And yeah, and the thing was, and that's exactly, it's one of the things, I'm sure you guys experienced it too. Once you actually get behind the wheel and get used to, charging up overnight and then driving on electricity, you get hooked. You get hooked. And then you see a solution that's like a pair that's like, and this one goes to 11, it takes you even further and faster, and they're lighter, and it's like all the best things are enhanced to, so it's really exciting,
Yeah. And Jerry and Helen, you still drive the Prius Prime?
Yeah, but I got to tell you, I do not like charging. I don't like sticking that thing in the hole, and maybe it's because too our garage is full of crap. Truth be known, and
true confessions on Drive the Lightning.
Yeah. So we have to plug it. We have a cord outside. And we have to drag it to the car. Just not my fave.
Okay.
Although here's a point to Aptera, is because I can charge it on 110. I have that little extension pigtail outside the garage door. All I got to do is plug it in a driveway. If I want to charge it up and get 150 miles overnight, I can't do that with a Tesla or any other EV.
Right.
Plus the solar charging.
Right.
But Helen, if you had to compare going
Yes.
to the gas pump and the smell and dealing with the gas pump versus plugging in at your home to the charger, which would you prefer?
That's a tough one.
Really?
I don't know. Well, because it's a Prius Prime, so we really have to plug in almost every night.
Yeah.
Whereas you guys probably don't have to do that.
Oh, we plug in every night.
Yeah, we plug in every night.
We
Just
only
like
get
our cell phones.
We only get 100 miles of range on a good day with the Leaf, so we plug in every day.
Okay.
But we have a level 2 charger outside. The house just charges in about 4 hours, but we just have it charge at midnight.
I think the point to Aptera though is that you would charge it so very rarely.
Yeah.
Especially with the solar charging, you really wouldn't be plugging it in that much.
Yeah, baby.
No.
Right.
And that's also a point to the Prius Prime and fueling, because I get 550 miles on tank. I don't go to the gas station that often.
Good. Good.
Especially when you use electric.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a great car.
Yeah.
Dean
I
has.
plug in every night too. So, but it's one of those kind of things. I get 45 miles on electricity, and then it gets like 40 miles to the gallon off of the gas thing. But I've got like a 65-mile commute. So it's, I drive there on electricity and I drive half the way back home, and then the gas kicks in.
Okay.
But the idea with the Aptera, especially, I mean, it's actually exciting. I'm like 32 miles to drive to work and then just leave it in the sunny parking lot. And then it's filled up to 32 miles again. So it's a free drive home, and then I'm looking at maybe charging up once a month at home. I mean, that's pretty exciting.
You can't beat that.
Pennies a kilowatt,
Yeah.
So
That's fantastic.
It is groundbreaking.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now,
So I have
okay.
a scenario where the Aptera is really going to be handy. So I have a 2-time-a-month job where I drive to a really remote area in California to do mobile imaging. And it's like 220 miles one way. But when I get there, I work in a mobile trailer and it has a 110 plug on it. So I can park right next to the trailer, plug into the 110 plug, be charging during my 10, 11-hour day, also charging in the sun because it can do both. And I will completely fill up from my trip to make the trip home basically free again.
That's
Nice.
beautiful.
That's so cool.
The smart employers around here, where we're at in Grand Rapids, Michigan, they are starting to install level 2 chargers for their employees, which is so smart. I mean, it's such a benefit. It's to your worker to say, listen, we're paying for your commute every day. They don't even have to charge at night. They go to work, plug in, they leave work with a full tank, full tank of electrons, I guess. But it's the Aptera changes even that. Even makes that smarter.
Yeah.
Well, I think the fact Jerry had mentioned, I think the fact that 110, everybody has 110.
Yep.
You don't have a gas station at home, but you have a plug. And the idea that the Aptera can actually bridge that gap so that anyone with a 110 plug and extension cord can add charge and fill it up 150 miles overnight, I mean, that's really unprecedented. And I think it's going to open up a big market for people who really had no option for electric cars before that.
Yeah.
Yeah, because our Nissan Leaf, just by comparison, we can plug ours into a 110. It will take 29 hours to charge it.
Oh,
And we'll get 100 miles. And we'll get
Yeah,
100
and we would
miles.
get 100 miles
Okay,
after
here's the-
29 hours. So that's why we have
Here's
a level 2 charger.
Yes.
here's another scenario. So at a lot of shopping centers, Target in particular, we have a Target near here where charge point, in order for, you know, to incentivize you to charge there, you can plug in free for 2 hours. I think they go up to 7 kilowatt hours. I could plug in my Aptera. There's a big shopping center there, the gym I go to. I could plug in, I do that with my Prime now. Imagine 2 hours of an Aptera charging at 53 miles an hour. I could charge for over 100 miles for free while I'm going to the gym and shopping.
Yeah, it's a game
And I
changer.
bet there's a lot of places you could do that with.
Game changer.
So going back to Aptera real quick, I just wanted to tell you about the big surprise when I rode in the Aptera recently was the
Aptera?
split window. Okay, I thought for sure that split middle part was going to bug the crap out of me, and you don't even notice it.
Oh, you mean the passenger window? You mean next to your head?
You know how the window is
Yeah.
in 2 sections.
Right, for aerodynamics.
Split, yeah. Uh-huh.
What
There's
what
that
did you?
black section.
Oh, you thought it was just going to irritate you visually, you mean?
Yeah, this is be
Oh.
right at my eye level. It's gonna be right
Yeah.
there. I won't be able to see outside, and it wasn't true.
Oh.
Visually, it was perfectly normal. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, I found the same thing. But the thing that struck me the most on my recent ride was, so we first started off the ride, I kind of noticed both windows are rolled down. But then I noticed there's no wind noise. And I said to Chris, is that normal? He goes, yeah, because of the aerodynamics.
Oh, right.
And I said, let's roll the windows up and see what it's like. We rolled them up. There was barely any difference in sound. It was
Wow.
almost as quiet with the windows rolled down as up, which was nice. The only thing you heard from outside was like the traffic and the birds, which is, I was thinking, oh, this is great, because on a day where it isn't too hot or too warm, you just roll the windows down and not run your AC.
I love it. Dean, have you ridden in either of the Aptera models yet, the Alpha or the Gamma?
No, I sat in the Gamma at the Fully Charged show in San Diego, but I haven't gone for a drive yet. Looking forward to driving in Delta.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
So Jerry and Helen have ridden in both Gamma and Alpha. We've ridden in Alpha. And I don't know about you, Jerry and Helen, but I would buy Alpha if it was for sale. It would. It made a few squeaks, and it was so stable. Acceleration was fantastic for the 2-wheel drive model. I mean, I don't know what kind of battery that thing has. I'm sure it's whatever smallest thing they could do just to demo it. But
well, Chris shared something with me. I can't say the exact number, but the battery they're using in Gamma is only a little bigger than the battery in my Prius Prime, and they're getting over 100 miles of range from it.
Oh, wow. And you get what, 25? Or how many miles do you get with your Prime?
About between 25 and 30 electric.
Wow.
But basically the battery they're using in it, one person could lift it easily, and it's powering that whole car for 100-mile range in the Gamma.
That is awesome.
That's so neat.
Something else.
Just nuts. That really speaks to the efficiency.
Yeah, we saw Chris carry the battery. He just lifted it up, and it was like, it's surprising.
That's crazy.
Did anybody else feel like all of a sudden the technology feels so accessible in that moment, like seeing his hands on the battery? I'm like, oh, I feel like I could do repairs on my Aptera. It just seems so so available.
Right.
That's an interesting thing too, because if you look at something like the Tesla, the Model S, right, it has a 100 kilowatt hour battery. You look at something like the Hummer EV, it has a 213 kilowatt hour battery, and it weighs 2,900 pounds, which is more than all of the Aptera. That's just the battery.
It's crazy.
That's the thing, is that all of a sudden when you've got a 40 kilowatt battery, or later a 23 kilowatt battery for the entry model, you're not carrying around all that weight, but you're still getting the usability of it. It's really, it is a game changer in that regard too. And then it takes away those problems that a lot of people have. They're like, well, you have all this investment in the batteries and all that stuff. Is like, well, I kind of don't have to worry about chargers, and then I kind of don't have to worry about battery mining because we're taking the least approach to it. I mean, to think about it, even if it's double the size of the Prius Prime battery, that is a small battery, and so then price is going to be less. It's going to be more accessible to people. It's kind of a nice thing.
It really is.
It's
So,
exciting.
so
It-
you,
uh,
since you, oh, go ahead, Jerry.
It surprised me when we were filming that battery video because I saw that and I thought the battery module doesn't look that heavy. So that's why I asked Chris, can you lift it? And he goes, sure. And then I said, well, how much would you estimate it weighs? And he says, oh, about 60 pounds. And I said, there's 6 modules. So we're looking at a battery pack at 400 pounds or under for the whole thing. And
That's
he said,
amazing.
I said, so in servicing it, you can just drop a module. Basically, one person could do it and just replace that module.
Yeah, Chris might be thin, but he is muscular. Definitely.
So when
The other big aha moment, let me
go
start
ahead.
quick. Just the other aha moment that I had when I was at the Aptera factory was comparing the Alpha to the Gamma was we saw the solar roofing, and it was beautiful. It was like a work of art. It was like looking through glass.
And you're talking about the production intent solar panel, right?
Production intent, yeah. It
was a huge difference between that one and the the original solar panel.
was
I mean, it was a work of art.
Mhm. Wow. I think, did we see a picture of that when they did their last update? The solar intent? Yeah, I thought so.
Yes.
Yeah. Because you can see it's much more refined than anything we've seen so far. Even on Gamma, it's way more refined than that.
Yeah,
Here's a
weren't allowed to
question.
photograph it.
You weren't allowed to
ahead.
photograph it? Did you say you weren't allowed to
No, they said
Did you tell them you're working with
They-
us? No.
Well, then we had carte blanche, but before
This-
that, it's like, you losers, get out of here.
Stop.
as soon as they
Yeah.
come for Ted Sarah, the door's open for us. Like,
Yeah,
they love you
you're
guys.
Ted Sarah,
No,
okay, you
they-
can do anything you want.
You're ambassadors. You
Right.
deserve all that. But now, since you three are always searching and always consuming Aptera content, that means you hear all the negative comments too. We don't want to rehash any of those. But I just want to know, how do you tackle that as ambassadors? Because you're in a different place than we are. We don't have to support it. We haven't signed our name that we're going to support Aptera. We do to protect our investment, and because we're fans. I hate to say, we're fans, but we're fans.
Mhm.
But what about you? How do you handle that, Dean, when you come across a negative comment? Do you try to set it straight, or do you ignore it? What do you do?
Yeah, so I moderate like 5 Facebook sites, and I look at like 8 or 9 of them every day, and so it's one of Aptera Facebook sites. And the thing is that there's a lot of, I think it's generally it's fear, uncertainty, and doubt, and there's not a day that you don't get some comment, and so the thing is that there's always going to be trolls. There's always going to be people who are going to be negative. There's people who just simply get attention by doing negative comments, and you try, and you can kind of sort people out. The hard part is there's people who pretend that they honestly want to know, but in reality, they're trolls, and they're just kind of like trying to look like they're, doing the best thing. But in reality, they're really just waiting to go and put in a little gouge. And then there's other people that are obviously just trying to say negative things, from the beginning. So the thing is that anybody, if I have a sense that they really are trying to find out information, then I give them information, because that's the best way. You guys know it because you got this positive channel, right?
Mhm.
You guys know that if you got people who are on the fence, there's a lot of real honest questions, that people have that they don't understand. Most people have never owned an electric car. So there's a lot of stuff. And especially with all the news out there that is trying to make electric cars look bad, they have honest questions. And so then you just give them honest answers. You just say, well, this is my experience. This is what I've seen in my life. This is what I've gotten from other people who have experienced electric cars. And these are the benefits, but you got to also jump in. These are the faults. It's not an exact fit, a match for everybody. There's a lot of people that it's not going to be, a good fit for, but that's okay. that's okay. So the thing is that if they're looking for especially like technical information, I try and correct it when there's a lot of myths out there. And this was really good for Aptera's program that they did, where they did the little Mythbuster thing,
Right.
where they're throwing out the common myths and then they're answering it or demonstrating it in real life. It was really good because it made my job much easier because I'm not having to clarify these common ones that come up often. It's like whenever you hear about fires in electric cars and stuff like that, but it's like 100 times more with gas cars. It's like it's not a real thing. But if there's a fire with an electric car, it's front page news. But the thing is that more than that is actually when people want to know about, well, why would you choose this? Why is it better? And then, yeah, jump in there, give them some information, get them excited. That's, I think, our job as an ambassador is to really just, because I think once people have an experience of an electric car, then they're gonna, if it fits their lifestyle and their needs and stuff like that, it's a great place to move.
I agree.
Yeah.
What about you, Jerry and
I-
Helen? Same
I think,
question.
yeah, I think the biggest area of doubt that I see, and it's a valid concern, is some people that have, maybe an understanding or even have an EV, that they don't get how could an Aptera possibly use 3 times less energy? It couldn't possibly do that. And you hear it over and over. Well, we've never seen any other EV that can use that little. How is Aptera going to do it? And they don't get. In fact, I just recently explained this to someone like a couple times. They don't really understand just how important aerodynamics is. That's why I love an Aptera's explanation where they say that 80% of the energy at highway speed is used to just pushing the air out of the way. So if you get rid of that, guess what? And then you add in reduced weight. But a lot of people, and I get that a lot of people aren't technically oriented, and it's really hard to try to explain to them, well, if you decrease the air resistance by a lot and get rid of a lot of the weight, you're just going to use way less electricity. But then they keep going back to, well, we've never seen an EV do that before, but I think people are slowly getting it.
Good. Yeah, I think it's funny watching. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I have to kind of fess up. I get a little impatient with some of the FUD mongers, and
Yeah.
I come down on them probably a little too harshly than I should because I get frustrated and mad.
You go, Jerry.
Hey, someone's
I
got
try to do it in a real polite way without calling someone names or
Yeah.
anything. But sometimes just flat call them out. You just don't know what you're talking about.
I try to
that-
control them.
Yeah.
Yeah, that actually is a really big challenge, is to go and keep even-headed about it, because you have some people that are just flat out lying, and they've got their agenda of the thing that they're trying to pitch. That is a cattail.
That's Rug in the studio, Cat. He wanted to get involved.
That's great.
It's funny when you watch General Motors and Ford, now they're all in on electric, right? But for years, let's face it, they were the ones pushing this anti-EV rhetoric for a long time. If it wasn't for California forcing them to have an electric option, they would not, I don't know, who knows what they would do. But now they're trying to backtrack, say, oh no, EVs are great, But they kind of started, in my opinion, maybe I'm off on this, tell me if I am, but it seems like they got that ball rolling since like 2011 when they put out a couple of just really bad EVs just to satisfy California so they could sell there, and never promoted them. Like the Ford Focus EV turns out to be a great little car that Ford never talked about, And the Chevy Spark EV turned out to be a cool little car that Chevy really didn't want to
I
talk
love that
about.
car.
They're great.
Ellen rented one once.
Oh yeah, Honda Fit made an electric car to meet California, and
Didn't
we
even
never
know
talk
that.
about it. And
The
so
thing
now they
was
have
that-
to go back on all that.
So I actually was in the program. You had to qualify to be able to get a lease on the Honda Electric Fit. They were only going to be in California. They were only going to be like a handful of them built. And I actually said, yes, I want in on that. And I only got qualified for it 4 months later. So it
Wow.
was these kind of things that I was perfect for it. I fit within the range. I was happy for the lease costs, and there was just a lot of stuff, but it never came to being. And what happened was, in the meantime, the Chevy Volt came out, right? And they had this program where it's $250 a month for a lease because it was supplanted. Well, that's what I was paying for gas in my Honda CRV, every month for the driving that I was doing. It's like, so basically I can pay the same amount and get a free new car. I mean, that was what pushed me over the edge initially. And then once I had the car, it's like, oh, this is actually pretty cool.
That's excellent.
Let me ask everybody here a question. So if the Aptera was it was no longer, you couldn't get an Aptera and money was no object, which EV would you pick? Dean?
So the thing is that realistically, I probably got to use Tesla. The thing is that, yeah.
Money is no object.
Money is no object. You don't need to get a used one.
That's true.
Okay, then I get a new. Get a Tesla Model S Plaid.
I
There you
love
go.
that Jerry said if money's no object, Dean says I'd buy a used car.
And I was like, Dean is so conscious of not wanting an extra car to be out there. He's going to take a
That's what
used
it
one.
is. That's what it is. Yeah.
Well,
Really,
there's a
Brilliant.
great value in used cars. I've had used cars for a really long time, and one of the big problems is that new cars, there's kind of a plummet in value initially, and so somebody else pays for all the extras and the good things, and then if you jump in just a few years later, you're saving a third on the costs and get the same vehicle.
Jerry, we
Yeah,
would buy
agree.
the.
Most of our cars have been used.
I think I would buy the Lucid, whatever the most premium model available at the time. That's probably what I would buy.
That was going to be my answer too.
Really?
Yeah.
Good. What about?
This is why it works over 30 years.
So what about you, Jerry and Helen? What's your car?
Well, I am in love with the Fisker Ocean in the matte blue. Saw that at what was that show we went to last year?
Fully charged.
Yeah, I saw it there
Loved
too.
it. Mhm.
Beautiful car. What about you, Jerry?
I would go for either the Lucid Air or the Tesla Model X, the newest one. I drove a Tesla Model X, and it was just a phenomenal car.
Yeah, awfully hard to beat Tesla. Awfully hard to beat Tesla. But I'd rather have an Aptera because we'll get comments sometimes, and I think you see these too, where why would I pay that much for the launch edition when I can get a Model 3? But you can't compare a Model 3 with an Aptera. It is not even close to juxtaposition of each other. They don't, it's not, but I get a lot of that. Or someone even said, well, I could buy a Chevy Bolt for that much. Well, go ahead. Chevy Bolt's a fantastic car. I get it. But you can't compare it to the Aptera. So how do you deal with those comments?
For me, I look at that stuff. It's per use. I have a friend of mine and he hauls around people and things and all stuff. He needs a bigger car, and that's okay. That's exactly what's going to suit his needs. The thing is that they are a great value. I mean, the entry level Tesla Model 3 and the Chevy Bolt, I mean, with the $7,500 off, I mean, they are dirt cheap and they're good, so it's like it's like diet food that tastes good. I mean,
Never heard of anything like that.
The Aptera is unique. It is really unique. I mean, the thing is, like I said, when I was originally, I loved the Tesla Roadster, the original one. It was exciting. It looked great. It was sporty. It was, it was just fast. It was all the things that I loved about a car. But now with the Aptera, it's like all those things rolled into a car that I can actually afford. What an idea. A new car that I can actually afford that has even more capabilities. It's wow.
Yeah. Well, for me,
the other thing I was going to mention is that, and I run into this a lot when I'm explaining to people. People first look at the picture of an Aptera, and because of its shape, they think that thing's way too small. And I don't think people are getting just how big that space is in the back. It's huge. That's why it's great when Aptera shows those videos of people sticking in coolers and surfboards and all kinds of
Bicycles.
stuff. It kind of reminds me, Helen and I used to have CRXs, Honda CRXs, and they
Yeah.
were kind of like that. It's a two-seater, but a huge cargo area in the back. In fact, I remember we were in our 20s, and my friends and I said, let's see how many people we can get into the CRX. And I think we got like 6 people inside of it. And I thought, yeah, I should do a video like
Not
that.
legally.
Yeah, not legally, but just to kind of give people an idea of how much space is in there.
Wow.
Yeah.
Sarah?
Well, I was gonna say, comparing like the Bolt and the Aptera, I personally am a fan of the Bolt. If I could buy one, I would. If we had the means right now, I would be happy to have one right now in my driveway. But I still want to have an Aptera. And for me, one of the big things is the right to repair, because that Chevy Bolt, as of right now, I have to take it to the dealership if it needs anything. My Aptera, I'm going to be able to fix that. And that is a huge deal to me, I think.
That is a big deal.
Along
Yeah.
that vein too, I think I don't know if it's still true, but at one time they were saying that you could take apart, completely disassemble an Aptera with only 6 different tools.
Oh, I hope
Which
that
is pretty
stays
amazing.
true. I hope that stays
I can do
true.
it with
I
one.
hope
A
I don't know if
sledgehammer.
that's true. That'll do
Actually,
it.
I probably couldn't.
That's right.
So I really appreciate this conversation. Just spending time with you has been a treat for us. But if I can get a last word from all 3 of you, just your last, your last pitch, like why should people be paying attention to Aptera? Who wants to go first? Who's ready for that? Dean, will you start us off?
Sure. Why the Aptera, or why now? I think the thing is that I think that Aptera it's pushing into another area. There are so many things with electrical vehicles that the big legacy automakers are looking and they're saying, okay, well, we have to make the most profit off of these to make them worthwhile. So they got to build the biggest ones.
Yep.
So you get these things like Hummers and Silverados and F-150s and stuff like that. But I think there's a huge market for small cars, for personal cars, for commuter cars, for individual cars, and it might be the second car for a family, but it's totally useful. When I go on the freeway, I see almost everybody is by themselves in the commute, and a whole bunch of them are in these giant vehicles. And that's been the push of legacy automakers because they're trying to make more profit. But I think that there's a group of eager future people who once Aptera becomes real and they see them on the roads and they get driving and they talk to their friends and they're like, no, it's actually really great and it's fun and it's economical and it's fast and it handles really well, and then they're going to go, yeah, here's a choice that I haven't been given, I'm going to go with it. Yeah.
I agree. Yeah. Helen, what about you? Give us your best ambassador pitch.
Well, I would just have to say that it's audacious and economical.
Wow.
Sums
Good.
it up pretty good, huh?
It really does.
Very efficient.
It's very efficient.
How Aptera-like of you.
Right on point.
And
Okay,
what
Jerry.
other car have we had that's so economical and yet so sporty and futuristic looking and yet affordable, all in one? I don't think there's ever been a car like that.
No.
And to Dean's point, I think a lot of the car makers push into these bigger, more profitable vehicles. My personal opinion, I think a lot of others are, the automakers, the legacy automakers have convinced people that, oh, I need a bigger car.
Oh yeah.
And then when you talk to people, well, yeah, I guess I don't really need that big of a space.
No.
I've driven SUVs and I have my Prius with the seats folded down, and there really is more than enough space in the back of my Prius to carry most anything I want to carry, except for really large items, than a big SUV. In fact, in some SUVs, I find that I have less space, when I've rented them than I do in the back of my Prius. And I think that's kind of lost on people. And I think like Steve Jobs' famous quote was, they asked him if he used focus groups. And he said, no, he goes, I know what people want before they want it.
Wow.
And I think my personal belief is that that's going to happen with Aptera. People don't understand that once they have this, they're going to say, oh, this is really good. I didn't realize that this, what I was missing and how much this benefits me.
Excellent.
Okay. So what's the next thing we're going to see out of Aptera Motors? What's the next step that we're going to see unfold, do you think, from where we are today toward production?
Delta. It's
Delta
coming.
builds.
Delta. Although Chris corrected me, he says they prefer to call them production intent builds now.
Oh, they don't want to hear Delta anymore at all? They've left the Greek
They
alphabet
prefer
out to
production
die?
intent because it's
Okay.
more descriptive of what they're going to be.
Okay.
And that
good,
kind
good.
of leads the public into, you know, they're ready now. We
Mhm.
have this production intent. So they prefer it if we use the term production intent instead
Okay.
of.
That's good
'Cause Delta-
ambassador work, Jerry.
Very
You're a
good.
good ambassador, getting the word out. So we
Also in Sarah's video with the parts, I think I counted 18 pieces and they're each body halves, which sort of, I'm hoping translates into 9 production intent.
yeah, is that what you
Cars?
think? Is that what you think, Dean?
You know something, Sarah? You got
Do you
this
know
little-
something, Sarah? You got this smile. Do you know
No,
something?
but I loved that theory. I was so excited when you counted them out.
What about you, Dean? What's your thoughts?
Well, yeah. I mean, the thing is that they're going to need a lot. They're going to need ones. See, now I think what's going to be happening next is they're going to create the production intent Apteras, and then they're going to be doing some testing. They're going to be doing testing for crash testing. They're going to be doing testing for range testing, for the solar, for the battery, for the motors, for the cooling, for the charging, all the things, just normal use. And so it's going to be a huge thing that's going to, I think we're going to get real numbers from the production intent version, right? That's what's coming. That's what people can put their fingers on. That's how it's going to actually come out. And that's pretty darn exciting.
That's exciting. Yeah.
That is exciting.
So
Oh, go ahead.
So at last year's Ambassador Factory Tour, I was talking to Chris just on my own. And I said, so what's the plan for the future? And it was interesting. Back a year ago, he told me, well, our plan now is to, when we get to production intent builds, we're going to build 8 or 9, which is interesting, goes along with the parts you saw. Because we'll have 2 or 3 for validation and crash testing. And I said, what about the rest? And he says, well, we're kind of thinking maybe doing some test drives. So I'm kind of hoping they kind of follow that same thinking that they were having a year ago.
Okay, good.
I strongly believe that they're going to need to do some solar charging validation here in the Midwest. I feel like some snow testing would be really smart. So
I know some people that live in that kind of area.
they would enjoy that.
Sarah's always
that
jonesing to
opportunity.
get a early idea.
You know, I'm a non-early adopter with early adopter tendencies.
Yeah. Go ahead, Dean.
So one of the
That's
things
good. I like it.
I think that's going to be great about the production intent build is I think they're going to be pretty much ready, and they're going to go and revisit Jay Leno. They're going to revisit Rich Rebuilds, all the people who really just spiked in interest in Aptera the first time. And they're going to say, well, look where it is now. This is what you're actually going to get. And that's going to raise it up and then a notch.
Yeah, good. I hope you're right.
Yeah.
And that last video they made with that YouTuber that's got like 24 million subscribers, and it was a young person, which is nice to see young people getting excited about. Not that you're not young, Helen, believe me, it's not what I'm saying here, but it's nice to see younger people excited about Aptera, because the students the college students should be a big market for Aptera. They're just driving around that town, and then occasionally they got to go home to see mom and dad to get the laundry done. And you've got the cargo space for the laundry, and you got the range. So it's perfect. Well, we enjoy all of you. Thank you again.
Very much. Thank you. Thanks for all your contributions to the channel. Everything.
You're watching. Okay, quick. Okay, let's hear what it is again. Go ahead.
All you need to say is you're watching Drive the Lightning, and then Jerry will say the positively charged. Helen will say EV channel.
Okay. You're watching Drive the Lightning.
The positively charged
EV channel.